In a cozy neighborhood where children played freely and laughter filled the air, there lived a cheerful family, the Johnsons. They were known for their vibrant smiles and kids who always had their noses buried in books. The parents, Emma and Mike, cherished reading so much that they often organized fun storytime sessions in their living room. Their 3 children, Lily, Ben, and Max, were enchanted by adventure tales, fantastical worlds, and stories about courage and friendship. One sunny afternoon, the family had a brilliant idea: why not share their love for reading with their neighbors? With that thought blossoming in their minds, they decided to construct a little free library right on their front lawn. They spent the weekend using brightly colored wood to build a charming structure shaped like a tiny cottage. They decorated it with hand-painted designs of books and whimsical characters. Once it was finished, the Johnsons filled their new library with an assortment of children's books, everything from fairy tales to exciting mysteries. The family placed a sign above the door that read, "Take a book, leave a book." They envisioned the joy it would bring to children wandering by during walks or bike rides. As they stood back to admire their creation, excitement bubbled within them. They could picture neighborhood kids stopping by, taking books home to read, and perhaps leaving some of their own treasures behind. Little did they know that this delightful project would soon stir up unexpected trouble with one of their neighbors. The little free library stood proudly on the Johnsons' front lawn, a delightful sight that immediately caught the eye of passers-by. Crafted with love, it resembled a tiny cottage, complete with a sloping roof and a bright blue door. The wood was painted in cheerful colors: sunshine yellow, sky blue, and grass green, making it look like something out of a storybook. Hand-painted illustrations of friendly animals and whimsical lettering adorned its sides, inviting children to come closer and explore. Inside the library was a treasure trove of books for every young reader. The shelves brimmed with fairy tales about brave knights and clever princesses, thrilling adventures in faraway lands, and fun mysteries that made children giggle with excitement. There were also books featuring dinosaurs, space travels, and magical creatures. The Johnsons made sure to include stories from diverse cultures, fostering understanding and connection among neighbors. A sign above the entrance read, "Take a book, leave a book," encouraging children to share their own stories while taking some home. The vibrant library quickly became a gathering point in the neighborhood. Parents watched with smiles as their kids chose books to read on the lawn or shared stories with friends under the shade of trees nearby. As word spread about the little library, the Johnsons felt a growing sense of community. They envisioned happy faces lighting up as children discovered new adventures, unaware that not everyone would welcome their charming addition. Not far from the Johnsons was Karen, a longtime resident of the neighborhood known for her strict adherence to rules and regulations. As a proud member of the Homeowners Association, HOA, she believed the community should look uniform and orderly, and she took her responsibilities very seriously. With perfectly manicured hedges and a house painted in neutral colors, she considered herself the keeper of what was appropriate in their neighborhood. When Karen spotted the cheerful little free library on the Johnsons' lawn, her face soured. To her, it was not only an eyesore but also an unauthorized structure that clashed with the standardized aesthetic of their community. Karen couldn't imagine how any serious homeowner would allow such a whimsical addition to disrupt the neatness she valued so dearly. Feeling it was her duty to preserve the neighborhood's image, she decided to take action. Armed with her HOA guidelines and a sense of indignation, she reported the library to the association. To her delight, Karen felt a sense of power in putting her foot down about what homeowner rights meant. She envisioned herself as a crusader for propriety, determined to rid their serene community of anything out of place. In her mind, she was not just protecting property values, she was ensuring that families understood the importance of following the rules. Little did Karen know that her actions would ignite a spirit of rebellion among other neighbors who cherished the joy that little library brought to their children. The day after Karen reported the little free library, tensions in the neighborhood began to rise. The Johnsons were busy preparing for another exciting weekend of book sharing when they received an official letter from the HOA. They were shocked to learn that their beloved library was deemed an unauthorized structure and had to be removed immediately. Confused and hurt, Emma and Mike couldn't understand how something meant to spread joy could cause such a stir. Meanwhile, Karen felt a sense of satisfaction as the HOA's decision validated her concerns. She believed she had secured the community's image by ridding it of what she considered an eyesore. In her mind, property rules were essential for maintaining order, and she was proud to enforce them. However, her approach was met with mixed reactions from neighbors who had enjoyed watching children happily browse through the library. As word spread about the HOA's ruling, whispers filled the air during evening strolls and playdates. Many families expressed their disappointment over Karen's actions, feeling she had taken away a wonderful resource for their children. Some neighbors even approached the Johnsons to offer support, sharing their own fond memories of visiting the little library. Feeling frustrated but encouraged by their friends' support, Emma and Mike decided they wouldn't give up easily. Meanwhile, Karen remained steadfast in her beliefs, unaware that her rigid views would soon lead to unexpected consequences throughout the entire neighborhood. As days passed, the conflict escalated when the HOA announced it would investigate Karen's complaint. They scheduled a meeting to discuss the little free library, and neighbors gathered with mixed emotions. Emma and Mike felt a sense of hope that perhaps their community might stand by them, but they also braced themselves for what could happen next. At the meeting, Karen presented her case passionately, emphasizing how the library broke HOA rules and disrupted the neighborhood's aesthetics. She insisted it set a dangerous precedent for other, unauthorized structures, fueling support from some members of the HOA who shared her views. After much deliberation, the association decided in favor of Karen, ordering the Johnsons to dismantle their beloved library within a week. When Emma and Mike received the official notice, their hearts sank. They immediately thought of the joy their library brought to local children, young faces lighting up as they browsed books on sunny afternoons. Conversations with friends and fellow parents turned somber, as many expressed disbelief at how something joyful could be deemed wrong. Local kids who'd enjoyed discovering new stories were disappointed too, some even created colorful, "Save Our Library" posters to display on their lawn. As they watched this beloved symbol of creativity and sharing be taken away, Emma and Mike realized how deeply rooted the impact had been on their community, while Karen savored her perceived triumph, unbeknownst to her that such strictness would soon backfire in surprising ways. The Johnsons' heartbreak quickly turned to inspiration as the neighborhood rallied together to respond to Karen's actions. Families began gathering in small groups at parks and backyards, discussing how they could bring back the spirit of sharing and reading that the little free library had fostered. Fueled by a collective determination, plans began to take shape. One evening, the Johnsons hosted a meeting in their home. They invited neighbors to brainstorm ideas for creating more little free libraries in their yards. Parents and children alike contributed their ideas, buzzing with excitement as they envisioned colorful boxes filled with books dotting every corner of the community. It was decided that they would each build their own, promoting literacy and friendship among everyone. As construction began, neighbors worked side by side, painting and decorating their new libraries with bright colors and whimsical designs. Some opted for pirate themes while others chose naturescapes or vibrant rainbows, each one representing the personality of its family. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and camaraderie as stories were shared over lemonade and cookies, uniting everyone in a newfound mission. Children even joined in, excitedly selecting books from their homes to add to these new collections, eager to see kids from around the neighborhood dive into adventures once again. What started as an effort to support the Johnsons transformed into a grassroots movement that celebrated community spirit. As little free libraries began appearing on every block, Karen watched in disbelief as her stringent beliefs created a flourishing hub of creativity and connection right outside her door. As the weeks went by, dozens of little libraries began to sprout across the neighborhood, each one unique and bursting with character. Bright reds, yellows, and blues lined the sidewalks as families installed their creations in front yards. Children helped paint them, adding their own artistic touches, handprints here, hearts there, each library reflecting the creativity and spirit of its household. With every library that appeared, a sense of unity blossomed among neighbors. Families who had once only exchanged polite waves now gathered for impromptu community meetings, sharing stories about the books they had put inside these new havens of literacy. They organized events like story-sharing picnics and book swaps, encouraging a love for reading that enveloped the entire block. Little by little, it transformed into a book-loving community where children raced from house to house clutching their favorite stories. Parents marveled as they watched their kids eagerly discover new adventures just steps from home. The laughter and chatter filled the air, spreading warmth and connection. It wasn't just about reading anymore, it was about friendship and coming together. Even more importantly, it became a collective stand against the disapproval of Karen and her rigid ideas. News traveled fast through the neighborhood about how they could create joy from adversity. Ironically, Karen's actions had sparked a vibrant movement that made the community stronger than ever before, one where everyone was dedicated to lifting each other up through shared stories and experiences. Little did she know that with each new library built, she was surrounded by a growing wave of camaraderie she could never have anticipated. As the neighborhood blossomed with colorful little libraries, Karen found herself feeling increasingly isolated. While families gathered around their vibrant installations, sharing stories and laughter, she stood in her yard, staring at what she considered a disarray of eyesores. Each new library only served as a painful reminder of her unsuccessful attempt to impose order on what she viewed as whimsical chaos. Walking through the streets, Karen noticed how the bright reds, greens, and blues of the libraries contrasted sharply with her neatly manicured lawn and muted house colors. Where others saw charm and creativity, she saw only a disruption of the neighborhood's supposed harmony. The sounds of children playing and adults chatting filled the air, but to Karen, it sounded like a chorus of rebellion against her way of life. Despite her attempts to connect with neighbors, they seemed preoccupied with their newfound camaraderie. Invitations to community storytime events and book swaps were met with polite refusals, amplifying her sense of exclusion. Even her once friendly chit-chats with fellow homeowners felt strained as people discussed their latest library additions excitedly. Karen's solitude deepened as more neighbors joined the movement, posting pictures of their libraries on social media and celebrating their shared love of reading. Feeling like an outsider in what used to be her comfortable community, she realized that her strict views had not only alienated her but had also fueled an unexpected spirit of creativity and friendship among those around her, something she never imagined could happen. As Karen continued to grapple with her feelings of isolation, a new and puzzling turn of events began at her doorstep. Each morning, she discovered a fresh copy of How to Make Friends waiting for her, neatly wrapped and anonymous. At first, she dismissed it as a prank, but as the days rolled on, the deliveries became a source of both annoyance and intrigue. With each book that appeared, her frustration deepened. She couldn't fathom why someone would send her such a title, believing it was an insult rather than a helpful gesture. The cheerful cover mocked her rigid perspective, the very thing she prided herself on. At times, she considered confronting her neighbors about the mysterious deliveries, but the thought of drawing attention to herself made her hesitate. Her evenings grew quieter as she stewed in frustration over the books. While families enjoyed their vibrant libraries and grew closer together, she sat alone in her living room, surrounded by silence. The laughter from outside seemed to echo in her mind, contrasting sharply with the solitude she felt inside her home. Curiosity gnawed at her as well. Was this some kind of community effort aimed at teaching her a lesson? The more she thought about it, the more it irritated her. Little did she know that these mysterious deliveries were part of a light-hearted campaign by the neighborhood to encourage her to embrace friendship and connection, a gentle nudge toward understanding that there was more to community than just rules and order. One sunny afternoon, as Karen sat glumly in her living room, pondering the pile of How to Make Friends books that had accumulated, she heard laughter and chatter coming from outside. Curious, she peered through her curtains and caught sight of her neighbors hosting a community picnic near one of the many little libraries. Children were racing to choose their favorite books, while parents swapped tales and enjoyed each other's company. A sudden wave of realization washed over her. This was not chaos, it was creativity, connection, and community spirit. Feeling a mix of frustration and desire to belong, Karen took a deep breath and decided she would join them. She put on her best smile and walked outside, clutching a plate of cookies to offer. As soon as she approached the gathering, the laughter died down briefly before being replaced by cheerful welcomes. "Come join us," called out Emma, the Johnsons' mother. "We could use some cookies for our story time." As Karen shared her cookies and sipped lemonade with new neighbors, the walls she built around herself began to crumble. The conversations flowed easily, filled with jokes about her mysterious book deliveries. Soon enough, they were teasing her gently, inviting her to help organize their next library event. That day marked a turning point for Karen. She found herself laughing freely and realizing that connections with others didn't threaten order, they enhanced it. Perhaps this colorful chaos was just what her life needed after all. With newfound determination, Karen saw her neighbors not as adversaries but as friends who had opened her heart to a world of possibilities.